Every year around the holidays, I try to take some time to relax, spend time with friends and family, and secretly create massive multiplayer online games. Wait, what? I don't know if it's just because the holiday season makes me nostalgic of time spent playing Runescape with friends, or if the dark winter months just make me crave social interaction. Either way, this online game making habit of mine has been going on for the past several years. And if you don't believe me, then check out this video right here. You'll like it. Anywho, today I want to share my secret online project that I worked on. So without further ado, let's jump back into the year 2022. Also, I didn't mean to rhyme there. Sorry about that. Now, for those of you who have been following the channel for a while, you'll know that I'm kind of a sucker for making side-scroller MMORPGs. My first, air quote, successful one being Fantasy World, a game where you play as a penguin, though later on you can change your character. You smack snowmen to level up, and most importantly, you collect rare drops. And when I say successful, I mean that this was like the first online game that actually worked and was available to the public. Fantasy World, even though it lacked a strong brand and was horribly buggy, showed me how easily you can have fun with others online, and how activities as simple as healing at the hot springs or fishing with some friends can encourage fun player interaction. I mean, just look at web fishing, that's like the prime example of that. Now, my second and slightly more popular side-scrolling MMO I made was Wizbirds. Now, Wizbirds departed from that typical hack and slash combat for a basic yet underexplained magic system, like severely underexplained. My thought was that the magic system would encourage more diverse playstyles instead of everyone grinding for the same boring ultimate weapon. In Wizbirds, not being limited by Fantasy World's fixed camera system, also played around with much bigger vertical themed areas, making the world feel just larger in general. But in turn, the game felt empty compared to its predecessor, which was jam-packed with stuff like around every corner. Okay, so why does any of this matter? Well, it matters because back in 2022, I wanted to create a project that merged what I thought was the best part of both of these games. The iconic, lovable Blue Jays from Wizbirds with a basic yet very addicting melee combat from Fantasy World. Pair this with potentially a tank, healer, DPS class-based system and some secondary magic abilities, and you get yourselves the making of a pretty fun online game. So I immediately got to work using my previous Mist and Metal prototype as a base. Personally, I was a big fan of that project, but I received a lot of feedback that people thought the Wizbird designs were much more unique than these generic blob-looking people. And you know what? Yes, I do agree. With that said, I really like the art style for Mist and Metal, so I used that as my main direction when I started making the pixel art. And speaking of pixel art, I quickly remade the Wizbirds in what was perhaps my favorite version of them so far. I also tried to recreate the wintry tundra area of Port Shiver from Fantasy World in this new style, so it's a winter location, and I like it. Next, I started work on designing the hats, creating an inventory system, and obviously being able to equip it. This wasn't too hard, but definitely tedious to make. What made it slightly tricky is that in an online game, you can never trust that the player is actually telling the truth. So when you equip an item in the game and you, let's say, for example, click the slot 1, all of that item's details and information is already stored on the server. So basically the server just sees what you have in your slot 1 and if you're telling the truth. And if you are, it will then assign the item's stats to the player. So it's kind of like the equivalent of asking your parent for a piece of candy. Basically, they already know if you've eaten it or not. They always know. Moving on, the next area I wanted to focus on was the enemies. And this is one part that I have continued to run into issues time and time again. And that's basically how I should properly control them. Currently, all the enemies' movement and physics are done on the server, and then it's sent to the client. The enemies just run around the server and that data gets sent to the player. The players are also drawn on the server, so the enemies are able to detect if a player is nearby to attack. And though the system works for now, it doesn't support having multiple rooms, and I'm honestly a little worried it's not going to scale very well, especially because I would love to make the server headless in the future. And it also means that whenever I place down tiles in the client world map, I also have to make sure it's exactly the same way in the server, which is super annoying. The suspicion of mine was even more evident when playing Souls Remnant Online, another awesome little MMO that was recently ported over to Godot. Souls Remnant, like Maplestory, has a bunch of smaller rooms that you can travel between with online enemies. So obviously the player must have developed a more scalable system, but man, unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a good solve for this yet. So if you have any ideas or recommendations for a better system and one that actually supports multiple rooms, I would love to hear it. Just let me know in the comments down below. Anywho, moving on, I brought back the idea of having a hot spring system from Fantasy World. I love the idea of just being able to chill out with friends and chat while your character's healing. And I also took some time to build out a little map for the players to explore. Right now, as I imagine it, you're on a floating island between two mountains, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's something I'll definitely update in the future. Eventually, there'll be more areas to explore, like little shops and places you can hang out, and definitely some sort of side skills like fishing or mining, something like that. Now, one of my biggest critiques with MMOs right now is that for a game revolving around being online, they're very antisocial. Heck, the most social interaction I've had in an online game recently was trading holiday hats and brighter shores. With smaller MMOs, it's easier to make friends and connect with people in the community, but I really want to double down on the idea of making a social online game by adding more emergent gameplay to this. And if you don't know what that means, basically I want to make the game more sandboxy, where people can kind of create their own fun while playing the game. And so I did. I quickly developed a hide and go seek game and invited some of my friends to play it. Basically, hunters will wear snow pup ears, which slightly increase your jump height and speed, while hiders had to wear these silly snow tomato caps because they're silly. And just this simple addition of adding hide and go seek was so much fun. And it's really funny to me how we ended up spending way more time messing around and playing hide and go seek than we did actually like doing the combat and grinding in the game. And that's as far as I got in this little online prototype during my holiday break. I so desperately want to recreate that era of MMOs where you're able to hang out with friends and create good memories instead of sitting in a dark room by myself, hoping, wishing, praying someone other than a bot would talk to me at the Grand Exchange. Of course, as many of you know, I've made a commitment over the last 2 years to stay focused and work on my Metroidvania Dewdrop Dynasty. And let me tell you, making prototypes is one thing, but actually making a full-length game is entirely different. So as much as I love working on these little online projects, I'm fully committed to finishing and releasing Dewdrop this year. But after Dewdrop comes out, I'm curious if you guys would want me to revisit this game and maybe release a little 2-week alpha test so you could play it for yourself. With that said, if you're interested in learning how to program and make video games yourself, then check out a word from today's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in math, data, analysis, programming, and AI. And one thing I really like about it is Brilliant helps you build critical thinking skills through problem solving, not memorization. So while you're building real knowledge on specific topics, you're also becoming a better thinker. Not to mention that Brilliant makes it easy to learn anywhere right on your phone, with fun lessons that you can do whenever you have the time. Whether you're diving into a new topic or doing a quick practice session, you can always level up on the go in just minutes. Brilliant's growing number of programming courses are a great way to build foundations and learn real-world applications. Get familiar with Python and start building programs on day one with a built-in drag-and-drop editor. Learn essential coding elements from loops and variables to nesting and conditionals. And most importantly, develop your mind to think like a programmer and begin to write complex programs to build games and applications. I mean, hey, you got me at games. With that said, if you don't know where to start, Brilliant is a great start. And to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/Goodgis or scan the QR code on screen, or you can just click the link in the description. There's plenty of ways, people. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription, so check it out. And before you go, my brother recently just started his own YouTube channel and is making videos that are pretty similar to mine. So if you're interested, make sure to check out his channel and subscribe. Anywho, thanks so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you next time.